Hello, you guys. Miss Steele here. And this week we are talking about scale, which is how big or how small something is in space, which is how far away or how close something is to us. I'm Miss Steele and I'm down here at the bottom. This thing next to me is recording what I'm doing with my hands. So for this project, we are going to make our own kind of circular winter landscapes using scale and size because they scale and space because they kind of work together. Scale is size, that's the same thing. So for this project, you want a big white piece of paper and another smaller piece of paper because I'm going to paint my background using markers. So I am going to need this to put the markers onto so then I can paint onto here. And of course, because I'm going to be painting using markers, I have markers. And then I have a water cup and a paintbrush. If you don't have this stuff, you can just color in your background. If you have watercolors or a different paint you would rather use, you can definitely use that as well. And then we're going to want scissors and glue because we're going to cut stuff out and put it all together. A pencil and an eraser, definitely art tool basics. And then you want some sort of black marker or pen. I grabbed some. And that's, oh yeah, and we want something circular to trace. This is an old pizza piece of cardboard, like, you know, underneath the pizza. You can use a plate or really anything you can find that is big and round. So I'm going to move this stuff out of the way because we don't need this yet. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this onto my paper. But what I want to do is I want to have a half circle and a whole circle. So I'm going to trace this right here, holding it down with one hand and then with my other hand going around. So I have a circle. And then as well, I'm going to kind of put this going off the edge because I can't fit it all in. And I'm going to trace a half circle. Like that. And that's why we had the bigger paper, so we could fit in a whole circle and a half circle. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut it because I want to paint this for my background, and then I'm going to draw mountains on here later, and we're going to cut it out and glue it to our painted background. So like I told you, I wanted to show you guys new and different ways you can use your different tools while you're at home. And you can paint using markers because they're washable. So if you get water on them, it helps the ink become more runny because markers are filled with ink. For your background, you can pretty much paint whatever kind of background you would like. I have a lot of people that did this last year that did sunsets, or they did like a galaxy, or they might have done like cool tones like purples and blues. I'm so sorry. I'm filming at school. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use purple. Move it over here. And I'm going to show you guys how you can do this. So what I do is I take my other piece of paper and I apply a bunch of marker ink, because I'm going to pick up the ink from here and put it onto here using my paintbrush. So now I have my purple, and I'm going to take my water cup, and then I'm going to swirl my paintbrush where I put all of that marker ink. And then I'll be able to use that to paint with. So I think I'm going to do like purples and blues. I think that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I will check in with you guys as I take. So I'm getting this all painted in, but I did want to show you guys that sometimes after I've been using it for too long, I make a new little area that I can pick up ink from. Because sometimes, you know, after a while you pick up a bunch of the ink and there's not much left for you to pick up for your paints. And then as well, if you want to put something underneath, sometimes it can bleed through too. So I like to put something underneath. And then I'm swirling Then I'm coming in and painting in all of these different areas. So I'm going to keep painting this, and then I'm going to set it aside to dry, and we're going to work on our next part. Oop, I'm dripping. I was trying to pick it up. It's okay if this gets over here because we're going to cut this out anyways. But sometimes if you see it, it might get behind there, and you can pick up that too. So I'm going to set this aside to dry, and we're going to start on our next part. Alright, so I got my area cleaned up and I have my background over drying. So now we want to work on this half circle. And what we're going to use this for is we are going to draw mountains on this to add to our background. And we're going to be using space and scale for this. So to start your mountains, this is the bottom because we're going to cut this out. And we're going to glue it onto our background because they both have the round edge. But this is going to work as our bottom. So what you want to do is you want to start drawing mountains. And I kind of come out from the top. And then I touch the top of my paper. And then I come down. And I kind of continue this sort of same squiggly triangle shape like that. So we have our mountains, but I want to draw more details than just our mountains. So what I want to do, hold on one second you guys, I have someone knocking on my door. All right, so we have our mountains drawn. And what you want to do is you want to draw some sort of road that, or some sort of path that lets us know that these mountains are in the distance. So what I like to do is I like to draw kind of two lines. And then it should get bigger as we come to the edge because this is farther away. So you want your lines to get smaller and they can even touch each other like that. Also, if you would like to add some shading to your mountains, what I like to do is I like to draw a line coming down from the middle like this. So you can see I have my lines coming down from the middle. And then I connect it to the edge of my mountain, like that. And then to add shadow, instead of coloring it in, you can add straight lines, and it kind of makes it look more like artsy and stylized. Like that. I'm also going to start adding in some trees. So we know that this is farther away. Sorry again. We know that this is farther away and this is closer to us. So things that are closer to us are going to be bigger, whereas things that are farther away are going to be smaller. So I want to add in a pine tree kind of poking out right here. And this has got to be pretty big. And if you see, I just add on flicked lines like that for my pine trees. Go back and add a few more in. So this is bigger. So if I wanted to draw more, I would draw them smaller, like that, and that would make them look like they were in the background. So I'm going to add a few trees in, and I'm trying to be mindful about like what scale I'm drawing them. Because if I have a teeny tiny tree up here, that wouldn't make as much sense because we know that the road's bigger here, so that's closer to us. Maybe over here in the corner, I'll add in another big one. It's kind of going off the paper, but that's okay. We're going to cut this out. And so we have our winter landscape started. I'm going to add in some more trees. If you've ever watched Bob Ross likes to add a lot of happy little trees into his artwork. And I definitely like doing that too. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to outline this stuff in that black marker that we talked about. So I think for the outline of my mountains, I'm going to use a thicker Sharpie And then for the inner details, I think I'm going to use a thinner Sharpie. But you can use whatever sort of black marker, crown, or colored pencil you have. And these end up looking very nice by the end of them. And I think for my bigger trees in the front, I'm going to use a thicker marker. And then for my smaller trees in the back, I'm going to use my thinner marker so they look smaller. So I'm going to go through and keep outlining this, and then we're going to get it cut out and put together for our final project. So I will be back with this all outlined, and then we're going to cut it out and put it all together. Alright, so I got everything outlined. We did the lines, and if you guys wanted to, like, add some texture into your snow, kind of like throughout it, just kind of like little squiggle lines to make your snow look more textured, that's definitely an option. Because snow kind of does have some texture to it. Like that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get this cut out so we can put it on our background that we painted earlier. So you want to go around and follow along your line. I also went back and erased all my pencil lines because I don't want to see them. And now we want to cut out these areas behind the mountains as well, because I want to be able to see my background in between my mountains. So I'm going to continue to get this cut out, and then I'm going to go grab my background so we can get it all put together, and then we will be done. My background, I haven't cut it out yet, but it's gonna fit in there like that. And I do want to tell you guys, I grabbed a gray crown. If you wanted to at the end go back with like a gray or white, silver, gold, whatever color you have, and make a few dots to almost make it look like snow or possibly stars, that is definitely an option as well, because that's what I'm doing now. And then I'm going to cut this out so we can glue it together. So I'm going to get this cut out, and then we're going to get this glued on there, and we will be done. You want to be mindful about how you are cutting these out, because we trace the same circle for both, so it should fit in very nicely. And then I use the gray crown just to add some dots in the back to give it some more detail, make it look a little nicer. All right. So now we have our marker painted background. And we're going, and then you can kind of turn it and see, like, where do I want this to go? Like, where would it look the nicest? I kind of like it like that. That's definitely something you can do, is kind of move it around and figure out which area it looks the nicest. And then remembering a dot is a lot, and we don't want our projects covered in glue. Add a little bit of glue onto the back. I added a thin line. And then kind of get it all positioned, all squished down. If you have any like areas that are hanging over that are bothering you, you can use your scissors and kind of clean up the edges if there's any edges that are kind of hanging weird. I think the rest of it looks nice. And that's it. That is our winter circular landscapes. I'll hold it up down here with me. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your morning, your evening, your afternoon, whenever you're watching this. I'm excited to see how your guys' projects come out. I'm sure they're going to look probably even better than mine. I can only hope. Because you're my students, and I want you guys to, like, do as good as me, if not better. Like, why wouldn't I want that? And I will see you guys all next time.